then so I'll just tell you what it is, and if you don't like it, we'll we'll agree to disagree, whatever. But this town, one of the worst things about this town is how political it is, and it's against the people who want reasonable growth and people who want high growth. And as you can imagine, the developers are funding candidates that want rapid growth because, they've made a fortune here in Indian Trail. And they all live in Weddington, where you have to have an acre for a lot, but they do all their business here in Indian Trail, and they've made it where you can put like 11 houses on an acre here. They've got high density in, and they run candidates and fund them to get into office, to vote for the density that they want. So, unfortunately, and the town lawyer said that we're one of the few towns where the council people meet with the developers in private. And I absolutely am
And this
against
is Union
that.
County. The town council will meet with
In
the
Indian Trail,
developers
in Indian
in
Trail.
meeting, in private.
Right.
An Indian Trail. Not
And-
an Indian
Well, I don't know about the other towns. I've just been involved in Indian Trail. But let's face it, if they do it here, they try to do it in other places. And they get them in there and they try to sell them into approving their stuff. And, general opinion of people here in Indian Trail is it's fixed. And, if it is, if it isn't, I don't know, but it doesn't look good to be meeting with these developers behind closed doors. And I'll tell you that the way things work here, if the developers have it worked out with these council people, then they'll bring it to them, and they have public comments, but it doesn't matter what public comments are when you get up there and talk, because they've already got together and decided that they're going to approve it. And if sometimes it'll go to the end, we'll be trying to convince one of them who's on the edge. And if they get word that day that that person's decided not to vote for it, then they pull it. And it doesn't even make that meeting that night. And then they wait for 6 months and work on them, trying to get them to approve it. And that's honest to goodness truth.
Yeah, and there is a candidate currently running who is on, works for the developers.
Exactly. And
Who is that?
it's a young guy, I can't remember his name. Let's see.
It is important. Exactly. We need to know who that is.
This Bachelor. Yeah, Cade Bachelor. Cade, CADEBATCHELER. I believe he works for the Moser Group. Yeah,
So Kate Batchelor is, works for the Moser Group.
he works for the Moser Group. Yeah.
Of course it is.
There's a name missing here. Oh, okay, over here. Yeah. Now, the gentleman who said that he didn't need, were you here when I mentioned
Say that story again. Say that story
Changing
again.
the light bulb.
Yeah,
Oh,
budgeting.
but we wanted the people to have an opportunity to vote whether they wanted the town hall or not, which eventually cost about $12 million.
Oh, yes,
And
I did hear that part.
okay,
Yes.
and he said that he didn't have to go to the people to get permission to change the light bulb. He wasn't going to go to the people for a $12 million town hall. So
Which one was that?
that's Mr. Daniels.
Mr. Daniels. And he's a town council member already.
He was voted out,
He
and
was
now he's
voted
trying
out.
to get back in.
And he's trying to get back in.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Who else would you consider that's running is conservative and has the same values?
I don't have to read these names because I'm like John and a Southern boy, and some of these what I call northern names that aren't.
Just spell 'em.
It's funny, down here we were on English, Scotch, Irish, a little bit of German, Helms, Desire, all that stuff. Crystal, Buchaluk. Buchaluk, yeah, yeah. And Tom Ambergery,
Yeah, he's my neighbor.
Yeah, he's a good guy. He just went to work for a different company.
He did.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
in the
he's
wings
been
business.
busy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So do you have any political experience? I mean, you seem to know a lot, but
About 20 years ago, I got started. I got interested in town politics, and that's when I found out a lot of issues. Then I started traveling in my job, and so I kind of dropped out of it. And I got back into it about 10 years ago when I saw things kind of going in the wrong direction. And so I got to know, if any of you knew Shirley Howell, who passed away. She and I were good friends, and I always called her the guardian of the gate because she was keeping an eye on everything going on, and all the politics, and trying to, be the person to keep the developers from taking over. And so she passed away. Actually passed away from COVID first part of this year. So anyway, I got involved with the planning board, and then I ended up being the chairman of the planning board. And
How many in that board? How
Excuse
many
me?
people in the board?
7 people on the board. But then one of the I resigned a year ago. One of the people who's funded by the developers, we've got a policy here that if you have people roll off of a committee, then the chairman and the vice chair pick the people they think that would be good for the town and for the committee. And typically it would have been myself and the vice chair. And one of the folks who's part of the development group is on town council, basically said, screw Dennis, this is who we're putting on here. And actually told us it should have blown into a big issue, but basically said that these 2 people were going to go on for the new people, and that I had no choice, and the vice chair had no choice, so we both resigned. And because who they put on there are pro-developers, and I just said I'm not going to be a part of it because I don't believe in it. And I was up to be each year in June they vote for a new chairman, and he had loaded it up with the development people, and so I knew I wouldn't be replaced and go back on as chairman. So I said I'll just get off and I'll run next time. And
So they're all on the board still.
so why didn't you, were you voted into this office?
I was voted in as chairman
As
by the
chair.
group that we had at the time.
Okay.
Now, see, there's 7 people that are on like the planning board. There are 5 council people. So, and they're always fighting to get, like on the council, it's 3-2. The mayor has a vote only to break a tie. And so they're always jockeying to get 3 people that will vote for the developers. And so every year, it always comes down to 3-2. And if the developers get their 3, then the other 2 are powerless for the next couple of years. They do stagger it so that one year there'll be 3 people that come up for a vote. The next 2 years, there'll be 2 people that come up for a vote.
When you were voted in as the chair, you had the most conservative on the board.
Our board was conservative.
How did you, as a chairman, allow to enroll the board?
Allowed to,
Allow to those conservative people be replaced?
well, you're supposed to be able to recommend, the chairman and the vice chair recommend, but what he did was he bulldozed through it all. And
Who is he?
this one person who's on council,
He was on your side? Was he a conservative?
he was on the builder's side.
Yes, at the board.
Oh, yeah, he's very much in
But
favor.
when you were
of
a chairman, your board was mostly conservative.
Right. And so he put liberal people on there. We had a couple of liberal people are there
But
already.
he had no part of the chair, or he had no part of the board.
The the council votes the people onto the planning board. And so he put his two people on there and bypassed the chair and the vice chair and got the others to vote for it.
Were you allowed that was taking place? Were you aware that was taking place?
Yeah,
And you could not do anything to stop it?
well, basically, it was very political. He told us that the other two council members were for those two people, and that there was no way that the people that I wanted to go on there would go on there.
So you just flat out resigned?
Yeah. Well, once they got on there, what do you do?
So if you're elected and if all this is still going on, apparently, what would you do to sound the alarm?
Well, you got public meetings and you got the media, and that's the two different ways. You just basically call them out during the meeting. But if you get, Crystal's good, Tom's good, we all have the same philosophies. And so that would give us the three on the board that would straighten it out.
But even though they would, let's just say the three of you would get elected
Mhm.
and you see all this infighting and all this dirty dealings going on. What we want from you is to sound the alarm, to give us some marching orders so that we can help you.
Right.
But if you stay silent, if you roll over, you're no good to us.
That's right.
So we need to know how bold you will be.
Well, the first time that I ran 20 years, a little over 20 years ago, I don't know if you remember, I ran back then. And I was in the newspapers, and back then, I really didn't want, if it makes any sense, I really didn't want to get voted in back then because I was traveling heavily. But I wanted to get what I considered the crooked people out of there. And so there was a girl running and a lady. And so I said, you let me be the mudslinger and go after him. And you go the high path and see if we can get them voted out and get good people in there. So I almost got voted in, and I was kind of sweating because at that time I really didn't want to go into office because I was covering like 7 states. And so we got 3 people voted out that time. And I was very vocal. But this last time around, when somebody doesn't tell you the truth and you think that everything is being landslided that way, then what do you do? And I just decided that time I'd shut up, and then this time around I'd run and I'd get in there and try to make a difference. So they can't get rid of me. I could have been, I'm most likely, also the vice chair, he didn't resign at first, but they kicked him out because he pretty much was along the same thought as myself. And so they replaced him. I knew that I would be gone once he put those people in there, that I would be out.
By then you need the council.
I would have been out of the chair.
But who kicked out the vice chair? The council?
The
town
council. Right.
Yeah, the council brings people onto a plan.
Right. And so they started loading it up with their folks that were pro-development. So we've got, well, 3 are dropping off. That leaves 2 that are on there. One is a real good guy. I don't know if you know Todd Barber. He's the one with he's got the ferret, Little Joe, if you've ever seen him on Facebook, but he's a good conservative. The other one, the Democrat, is one who's in the developer's pocket.
How long ago was that?
Excuse
How
me.
long ago was this that you resigned?
A year ago.
A year ago.
Yeah.
That was after your vice chair was kicked out.
Right.
Here's the problem I got with Mr. Todd Barber. I watched the town council meeting when they voted
Uh-huh.
to not go revenue neutral, but to keep the tax rate the same. Thereby effectively almost doubling our taxes. They unanimously approved that.
Okay, let me explain that to you. And I'll tell you what we're talking about, but you get a certain amount of tax money out of the sales tax, you get a certain amount from the county. And the way they've got it set up, if you didn't stay, what is it, revenue neutral or whatever, then you don't get that tax money from the county. And so they almost had their back to the wall that if they, and here's another thing about the town, and the town want more and more money, they were going to lose a huge amount of tax money coming from the county from sales tax if they didn't stay revenue neutral.
They didn't stay revenue neutral.
Well, I may get them mixed up. If you got to go along with whatever that is to get the tax money from the county. So they had to vote that way. But now we're getting millions of dollars from the government for all this COVID relief. And Todd and I have kicked around the idea of coming back now and trying to cut the tax rate in the town. But I tell you, the town's rich. They've got a huge amount of money. Yeah.
So how much money do they need? 'Cause I know the county went revenue neutral plus 1%.
That's what you have to do. Revenue
But
revenue
they
neutral
didn't-
plus 1%.
They didn't do that. Indian Trail didn't go revenue neutral plus 1%. They went the same tax rate that they had before, which they didn't do, cut a tax rate and then add one.
Yeah, they had to stay at least revenue neutral.
They didn't do that.
They raised
They didn't raise the tax rate, they kept it the same, which is not revenue neutral. Revenue neutral is cutting the tax rate, so we pay the same amount, about close to the same amount that we paid the year before in property tax. So instead of that, instead of us paying the same, close to the same amount that we paid last year, mine almost doubled.
but that's because of the appraisal on your property.
Yeah, but see, the town is supposed to go revenue neutral.
Well, see, it's two different things.
No, it's not.
I think.
No.
I think.
No. Here's the way I understand revenue neutral. When they reassess tax value, they give us a reassessment. Our property values go up,
Uh-huh.
which ours almost doubled.
Right. Mine did too. Mine too.
Okay. They're supposed to cut the tax rate enough.
I see what you're saying.
So instead of paying double, I'm paying about the same thing that I paid last year. Well, I'm not paying about the same thing I paid last year. I'm paying almost double what I paid last year.
No, I hadn't been on the council, so I get confused about all this stuff.
That's what revenue neutral is.
Let me, hang on a second. If I don't know, I'll always find out.
Hello.
Hey, I got you on speakerphone. Need you,
Oh,
I need you to explain something. John, this is John Early, and we'll come up with the discussion on the tax increase, or actually the appraised increase and revenue neutral, whatever. And so you know a whole lot more about that than I do. So hang on a second. I'm gonna have John ask you a question.
Yeah, why didn't the Indian Trail Town Council go revenue neutral? They voted to keep the tax rate the same, which our property value is almost double, so that means the amount that we actually pay almost double. I thought they were supposed to go revenue neutral, they were supposed to lower the tax rate to where we pay about the same thing that we paid last year, but that's not what happened. I want to know why.
Well, there's a lot of different reasons involved in this. One is, in budget season, we really didn't get a lot of chance to look at it. one of the problems is Indian Trail has a very low tax rate in comparison to Monroe and a lot of places. I mean, we're really just low. And in order to lower the tax rate, our sales tax revenue, see, property tax is only one of our revenues. Other big revenue is sales tax revenue. Well, it's based on our tax rate. Even though we got more population than Waxhaw and Monroe, they get more sales tax revenue than we do because our tax rate's low. So if we lower the tax rate, then we get less money. So it's kind of like you're saying we'll lower the tax rate, but then we cut ourselves on the sales tax revenue. So then we'd have to come back and just raise the tax rate back next year.
No, you wouldn't have had less money because we would have been paying the same amount that we paid the year before.
No, I'm
Probably a
talking
little
about,
bit more. You wouldn't have lost any money.
we lost money on sales tax. You didn't hear what I said.
Well, you know,
You didn't hear what I said.
I heard you say sales tax, but you know, why are you losing money on sales tax? Did you lower your sales tax?
If you lower the tax rate, sales tax is based on two ways in North Carolina. One is based on your tax rate. The other way is based on the population. In Union County, the county doesn't pay out. They tell the state how to pay the sales tax. The sales tax here isn't based on population. It's based on our tax rate. If the county changed that, I'd have been more than happy to go revenue neutral. But the other problem we've got too is we got a trash contract that's going to double in price. And we wasn't sure what the sales tax revenue was going to be because of COVID. So there's a lot of different reasons. Personally, if the town's in good financial shape, I would lower the tax rate next year. But right now it was just, there was too many variables to say, you know what was really going on. Yeah, uncertainty. Yeah. So that's kind of where it's at. And of course, we didn't raise your value. You know, we didn't have anything to do with that.
That was the appraisal.
Right. We didn't raise the appraisal.
No, you didn't raise the appraisal, but you.
We don't do the appraisal. That was all the county.
All right. I appreciate the explaining. Bye-bye.
Who's that?
That's Todd Barber.
Barbara,
Barber, yeah.
is he associated with you?
He's on town council. So basically what he's saying was, if we cut the taxes, then they were going to cut us out of the sales tax, so we get a good portion from. And so the fact that we didn't know, well, they didn't know what sales taxes, I guess, we were going to get with COVID, because let's face it, last year, everybody stayed home for how long? I mean, they just shut us down. So, and that, I mean, all that filters down to like DOT. I mean, people weren't driving last year like they were staying home. And so we didn't get the gas tax for the highways. So there were so many things that, like he said, variables out there because of the stupid COVID thing, that I guess they took a more conservative.
When you say sales tax, you mean the state sales tax revenue that we send to Raleigh, and they divide it up to the counties, and the county divides it up to the towns? Is that how that works?
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
And see, they would withhold that. They would withhold that sales tax if
So
you.
with all the money that's coming into the federal government,
Mhm.
over and above what you want, yes, we're happy with that.
That goes into the coffers, and then the town sits there and tries to figure out how to spend it. And I'm sitting there going, why do we, I mean, if we're gonna spend it on anything, spend it on roads. But, you know, then the town people will say, well, that's DOT's department spending it on the roads. But we have floated some bonds trying to get DOT to build some highways here. I mean, I don't know if any of y'all travel to eastern North Carolina. Eastern North Carolina used to have a lot of political clout in the state, and you go out there, there's 4-lane highways to nowhere and nothing around. I mean, they're beautiful roads, and we're up here choking, and we haven't been getting the money we need for highways.
All of our streets have potholes.
Take an example. One of the things I do on the side is I buy wrecked cars. Insurance companies total them, and they do it based on the big dollar repair shops. And so I'll go to the auctions and buy the cars that aren't that bad. And then I've got small shops that do work for me. And they've got a rebuilt title, but still they're about half what a car costs at a car dealership. So I have to get them inspected by DMV, and one of the guys at DMV. I don't know if you've been down to license place down here where you get your license. Have you seen the potholes in that road there? Okay, they can't get money. They cannot get money from the state to fix that road. And so DMV, the guy from DMV went down to DOT down in Monroe, trying to get them to give him some asphalt so they could fix those potholes. And they said they're so strapped for money, they don't want to give up their asphalt. So even DOT can't get money for their own stuff.
How much does the town council member make to the mayor?
I'm not, it's like $12,000 for a councilman, and a mayor, maybe 2,000 or 3,000 more.
I don't think.
I don't know why. Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard of affirmatively for fair housing that Barack Obama wanted to push the suburb or the inner city apartments and everything into the suburb?
It's been going on. It's been going on for a long time. In fact, that Charlotte used to have a really big public housing issue downtown Charlotte, and they moved them all out to like Albemarle Road. So now you hear a lot of shootings and all that on Albemarle Road. The way I understand it, federal government is the top of the lawmakers, which that's what the Civil War was about anyway, because the southern states didn't want the federal government telling them what to do. They were putting tariffs on the goods that were going to England and France, and then they were putting tariffs on the goods that were coming back. And so the federal government dictates to everybody what they do. So they're the top of the law chain. Then the state is second. So all that stuff comes down as it trickles down. The towns have to go by what the state federal governments require. Now, what they've been trying to do recently here in North Carolina, the developers been pushing to take away the zoning from the towns so that they can come in and dictate where they put apartments and townhouses and whatever. So that's on the state level. Now they've all been fighting that. The town's been fighting it, and then concerned citizens like us have been fighting it too. And it's still in the House right now, and they're fighting it. And it's been tabled, so they think that's probably going to go away. It's not going to make it. But the folks that control that would be, we got Dean Arp and Todd Johnson, and they're the ones that talk to about that. I mean, the towns can rally against it and make their displeasure known, but it comes down to those the state representatives voting against it.
I've heard that, like, say our town, if we didn't want that in our town, we could just refuse to accept the government's money.
Well, there again, I'd have to look at the particular cases, but I mean, here's the thing: the towns are not going to turn down any money. I mean, they can't get enough money. This government cannot get enough money. So you gotta on a local level vote a council in that would vote that way and turn it down. But I'll tell you now that any town manager is going to sit there and go, "You're crazy. Let's do it and get the money." I mean,
So you touched upon one thing that you would be fighting for. Okay? But you earlier mentioned that one of the reasons why you got into politics was because you saw so many issues.
right.
What issues do you presently see at this time that besides the one that you asked about earlier, that you're diehard for?
Well, first of all, we don't need to be a Charlotte, and that's what some folks are trying to get us to be. We need to have growth, but they do a little box thing with the kids every year at the school. So they have a big grid that's a town, and the kids come in, they put boxes like this would be the court, the town hall. This would be maintenance for the town over here. This would be houses. This would be a shopping center. This would be, where you put your garbage, the garbage dump. This would be your industrial area. Well, if you look at Indian Trail, the kids know where to put all that stuff, but we don't have commercial areas here. I mean, if we're gonna continue to grow to keep from adding more and more traffic to the town, we need to have our people be able to work here at good wages rather than go to Charlotte or go down to Monroe. Why don't we, I mean, if the town's gonna fund anything, let's go to a certain area and do the light industrial area and get good paying jobs like machining centers and that sort of thing. And they're out there.
I think over near the airport,
Uh-huh.
when you drive behind the airport.
Right.
Back where the new, recycling center is.
Uh-huh.
You go out that way and you see all the industrial areas. that are
Exactly.
Starting to grow in that particular region.
Mm-hmm.
Which is good because the airport's there, the airport's getting there. It's a prime area to bring companies into.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, what we need to do is focus on growing that so that we have jobs for, Union County.
Live, work, and play. Try to do it all in your town rather than everybody leaving town in the morning and then coming back in the afternoon. I mean, try to get it where our people work here. They live here already, work here. The entertainment, of course, this is called the entertainment district here. This the bowling alley is going across the street. That's my big thing is try to keep people here in the town and quit flooding the highways with people leaving here. Don't put in any more of this high density stuff we've already got. And on the books right now, counting what we have, there's 8 apartment complexes being built or already built. 2 already built. Excuse me, in Indian Trail. And 6 of them just been voted in.
We don't have the infrastructure.
We don't. And the developers will say, well, believe me, you're not gonna get the roads until all this stuff gets built. Well, they haven't done anything with roads in 20 years. Now they put Band-Aids and put these Michigan turn lanes where you gotta loop around, and they're putting roundabouts in, but those are Band-Aids. Yeah, well, planning board and town council.
Them U-turns, I don't like that at all.
Michigan turn lanes.
But that mayor, Alvarez, he said that he didn't know that was gonna happen when it happened.
Yeah. Well, and see, we don't control DOT. DOT comes to us and basically says, this is what we're gonna do. It's pretty bad when, if you go down 74 Independence, there's a light flash that says crash zone. Have y'all seen that sign flash? It says crash zone, and it's from right here at Wesley Chapel Stouts all the way up to where Chick-fil-A is. Yeah.
I know there've been a couple of bad accidents down here that certainly here, come down Wesley Chapel, 74 right here.
Uh-huh.
And down many times and different many accidents.
If all 3 spots were filled with conservatives, how dramatic and how soon would we see a change?
They can vote for things and get implemented and get put in place.
The problem is, all these things have been voted on, these 6 apartment complexes, and the only one you really seen going so far is when they call the hub up at Taco Bell and Walgreens. And he's pushing, what he's done is he contacts all these restaurants around here and has them do a letter writing campaign, email wise, to the council people, saying all these businesses want all these apartments here.
But then
It's true.
why aren't we made aware of that as well? I mean, why isn't someone telling us, hey, this is what the enemy is doing. We need to counter it. So we're gonna need for you guys to do this. You know, where are our action items? You know, our call to act. Who are those people? Why aren't they doing what they're supposed to?
You know what? And this is sad, but we got like 40,000 people in town. But how many people vote? Couple of
But
thousand.
I think it's because we're not made aware of.
Right.
Someone
and-
needs to tell us.
See, they come back and say, go to council meetings. But what happened this last year with the pandemic, they shut them down. I mean, they were doing those things by Zoom. And unless y'all went in and looked on Zoom to see what was going on in the meetings, you didn't know.
I think a lot of things in meetings.
A lot of stuff got pushed through.
Right. So then my question goes again, you know, what would be the point? You know, I'm kind of playing devil's advocate here. I'm just saying, we hope that if the 3 positions available are, you know, slotted by conservatives, we want to see change.
Mhm.
You know, and you're saying, well, you know, those contracts were already signed, but is
Well, what I'm
it
saying is-
impossible to say, hey, people were not made aware of this?
No, they've already, once they vote, it's basically law, and you can't go back pretty much and change it. You'd have a lawsuit. And see, there's a lot of other properties around here that years ago, they got changed to high density housing. They've not done anything with it. And so once they decide to start, then that's already been voted in and you can't change it.
Speaking of that, the property at the corner of Wesley Chapel and Rogers Road,
Uh-huh.
the big property on the corner, that's had for sale for a couple of years. What is the final thing on that property? I think they were trying to put high density housing in there, and for some reason it stalled.
Chapel and Rogers Road.
Yep.
Okay. And you got Holly Park across the street.
Holly Park's across the street.
Okay.
This is a blank corner. And then on the right-hand side,
I know what you're
surveyor
talking
on the other corner, but that other property right next to him has a big pond in the back between the house and the elementary school.
Oh, okay. Someone's got that for sale.
Moser has it for sale. It's
Yeah,
had
but I
for
see
sale
he
for a
does.
long time.
He does 2 things. He does development, and he also is like a real estate agent. So I think that the person who owns that property has Moser listed. I think
It's been
that's
for
the case.
sale for a long time.
Yeah, because that person's not getting what he wants for it. But I don't know if that's already zoned residential or what it's zoned. I'd have to look
I
and
think it's like multi-family.
Yeah.
houses of
Multifamily.
some
Actually,
sort.
many of them.
And if that's the case, then it's gotta be townhouse apartments.
see. Yeah,
If you're elected, how many years? 2 years?
4
4 years?
4 years.
What are the top 3 issues that you see going on here in Indian Trail that it's just horrendous
Well, traffic. I mean.
traffic?
And you know what, the state laws, let me explain it. State law now says, and the developers push for this, you cannot turn down a project because of highways or schools. So talk to the town attorney, and the town attorney says, well, now you gotta be very quiet in how you handle this, but you can just say you don't like that project. And you think that something else better would be for the people here in the town. But I mean, it's going to have to go back to what people in the town want, not what the developers want, not what the administrators want to get more money into the coffers. We got to have people up there that want to keep this. I mean, I call it the misery index. The misery index is already getting up here.
Yeah. And so what would you do? Because you're right. It should be what we want, not
Right.
what the developer. What would you do? You know, how would you get together to get the whole committee on board? I mean,
Well, if we, and honestly, Todd is a good guy. I've got to know him real well. And it is hard up there making decisions when you're looking at money coming in and, you know, money that's not going to come in, and you don't know how much is going to come in, and you're trying to do a budget. And, you know, government doesn't seem to let people go. They don't seem to trim back. They just continue to grow. And so you got to, first of all, you got to you know, sooner or later, just like Stallings, they're gonna want to build onto that town hall over there and add more people. And I mean, just government keeps growing. So you got to first of all get government under control. And you got to address the issues that you have, like your infrastructure, your roads, schools. And you got to do things like if you're going to have, and you need to continue some growth. You don't want your town to go stagnant. People start leaving, like the textile towns, whatever. So you got to get a variety of different industries in, and you need to develop an industrial park. And like Monroe has done with the airport. Monroe has done that, and they've been very successful with it. And we've done nothing. We just keep building houses and apartments. So, okay. So, I mean, that's the main thing is to stop this crazy growth and bringing people in here. We have enough people in this town. Now we need to try to work on good paying jobs, you know, commercial, maybe office buildings. You know,
So day one on your job, you get elected, okay, you're in for 4 years. Give us your 3 top points that you will address.
cut down the density. We have enough apartments, so already voted in, no more apartments. No more apartments. An industrial park, light industrial park, away from housing. And then, you know, I go back to the box thing with the kids, and, you know, you put this over here. I'd continue the, well, we got to have a police force. Some people in the past have wanted a police department, but if you have a police department, you got to have an evidence room. You've got to have facilities. And so what we've done is we contracted with the sheriff's department. And they've got the jail, they've got the evidence room, they've got all facilities. And the reason our taxes.
Cost in Indian Trail right now?
Excuse me.
How much is that cost in Indian Trail right now?
I'll have to get back to you on how much it is. I think they average like 125,000 an officer, and I think I'm thinking we got like 30 officers now. You know, 24-hour a day, 7 days a week. But if we had our own police force, it would be substantially higher. The other situation we got now with the garbage company is that they're losing their rear end on their contract. We got a great contract with them. So they may well pull out because we were exporting a lot of our recyclables to China, and that collapsed. And so they were basing their rates on being paid for recyclables. So that's when they're going to have to. That's another reason they didn't know quite what to do with the, you know, with that tax neutral or whatever, and the money coming in.
I have a question. Why can't we investigate some company or some organization that is involved in recycling and bring that type of company here to Union County?
That's a good question. Somebody's recycling. I don't know, but right now, see, nobody wants to do it because they can't make any money at it. They're losing money because, well, first of all, China, you know, the garbage companies now, like Shelby, they quit taking recyclables because they're losing money.
In this green situation, they want to do away with petroleum products, which is how you get all those plastics. Everything is plastic.
Right.
You go to the grocery store, you want to buy a container of fruit. It's that hard plastic. It's a number one recyclable. It should be recyclable.
Right.
You know, what are we going to do? How is that going to work? And it works, you know, at a community level as well as it does internationally.
You know, it's like everything. I mean, prices go up, they go down. They go up, they go down. And right now, for some reason, and I guess it's China, you know, COVID had them in the dumps financially and economically. They're just not buying recyclables. So a lot of them now are just taking recyclables and putting them into the, you know, we're sitting there separating them all. They're taking them to the dump and dumping them, you know, because they can't get rid of them.
I've been doing that for years.
Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
I've seen trucks occasionally come by.
Why would we want to have business with China anyway? Why would we want to have business with China anyway? We're trying to get away from China.
Well, we're selling that to China, trying to get some of our money back. But, you know, used to the United States led the world out of recessions. Back when I was younger, we were a manufacturing giant, and we always led the world out of recession. Well, now it's China that if China has the flu, we have the flu.
How can America-
More ways than one.
Unfortunately, China has communism, maybe it's coming into.
When I was in China about 7 years ago,
Business or pleasure?
business. I actually went over there because we've got so many regulations. I mean, you know, we need clean air, we need clean water. I don't know where, huh?
Wrong place to go, China.
China? Well, it was interesting. You know, our laws have made us clean up. Okay, their laws have not made them clean up. So when I was in one of the industrial cities, there was a brown tent in the sky. And I asked my interpreter I was with, what is that? He said, it's pollution. He said, that's what used to be in the United States, and it's here now. But China is more into building their economy, building, believe it or not, they want a stable, well, everybody wants a stable population.
Yeah, so business.
Steel. So all the steel mills are gone in this country now, just
Are
about.
you familiar with scrap metal recycling?
Yeah,
Is that going to China?
that goes to China.
So you mean to tell me that in the United States, recycling scrap metal goes to China?
Yeah, we ship it to China, make it steel, and send it back over here. Well, we lost all of our jobs. We've got a tremendous amount of regulation, some of it good, some of it not so good. We got lawyers chasing everybody around, wanting to sue about everything. And big companies just decided, hey, we're better off to have the Chinese make it, bring it over here, we sell it and make a profit on what we sell. We don't have to worry about getting sued. We don't have to worry about the government coming in and fining us. I've had my own business, and the stuff that I had to go through, I finally just auctions off the equipment and shut it down, rented the building out, and just said it's not worth it. It's a shame.
I want to ask you a question
Uh-huh.
that I ask every person that is a conservative.
Uh-huh.
You a Trump conservative or a good old boys conservative?
Am I what?
A Trump conservative or a good old boys conservative?
I was a Trump conservative because one of the biggest, well, he's not in there now. I still am a Trump conservative because one of the things he wanted to do was bring manufacturing back in the country, make our drugs in this country. And he was not a politician. And that's one reason why he got voted out. He wasn't a politician, and people don't want to hear, you tell them the truth and they don't want to hear it. But I went through, I'll give an example. I had a steel processing company, and the equipment I ended up buying, because I got a good deal on it, I thought it was good equipment, it was made in Germany. They've got a quality program there for their equipment called CE, called Conform Europe. And so you got to have all your motors have to be wired a certain way for safety, your amplifiers, everything has to conform to CE. Well, UL, United Underwriters Laboratory, opened a facility in Raleigh. So they lobbied the state government to require three-phase industrial equipment be covered by UL here. Now, UL has always been consumer. So I was in a rental building, bought this building, had an electrician do all the wiring in my building, moved the equipment down, had it all hooked up, and did it over the weekend so I could be back up and running orders. And the inspectors here in Union County said, we can't give you power. And I go, why not? Well, your equipment is not UL approved. And I said, what are you talking about? Well, they changed the law here, and your equipment has to be UL approved. And I said, that's consumer. UL's consumer. It's not three-phase industrial. Well, this is what they voted in. So I had to let my employees go. I couldn't fill the orders, and we had a big spike over that. And so that was the Democratic controlled government that we had at the time. So when finally things turned and the Republican Party took over North Carolina, they did away with that program. But companies spent millions of dollars throwing away motors, throwing away amplifiers. I mean, you wouldn't believe what they did.
Nothing new. We just gave billions to military.
Yeah.
So where, but you're not, because he's not in power. Are you an America First
Say the last part again.
Are you an America first
Oh, yeah.
conservative?
I mean, we're giving all this, they're talking about giving money to the Taliban now. Are they crazy?